Awesome. So, yeah, no, just kind of to kick it off and welcome everyone. It's good to see you guys all here. Chris, I just see you just joining. Um, really, really great, and just really pumped to have you guys all here. Yeah, so kind of some of the conversation going on in the chat, just to kind of lead this off, is we're gonna be spending a lot of time today kind of working on some updates and adjustments to READMEs and different things to kind of get more information out there, right? Like a couple of you probably saw in the chat, Sean was working on trying to understand the code base, and Arindam is doing the same thing. So, like, we want to try and do this together. So let's find ways to kind of collaborate in public about this. But Sean and I will put together some new READMEs and documents that we can try and have those chats here in Discord, and really just try and help explain how you can use the Pieces ecosystem to do some really cool stuff. I think some of the more recent blogs that we'll talk about today around the Copilot context and the local models really do a good job of kind of getting into the nitty gritty. And also utilizing some of the other documentation that's out there that isn't necessarily in your primary language, but that you can potentially use to help understand some of how these endpoints work. But just really excited about a couple things. So we'll just kind of jump in here. Just want to get this going. But I hope that everyone's doing super well and their week is off to a great end before the next week starts. So just kind of some general things that I just wanted to cover first. So we had some light updates to the SDKs to support some of the new models that have been coming out. So that's really exciting. So there's now Mistral support. So you can use Mistral as one of the local models and actually download that and use it inside of your own project. So that's really exciting. It kind of creates a new way to communicate with the Copilot where you're going to get some more robust responses that are really quick in this new model. So really cool. There's a PR open for this right now. So I'm going to be working a little bit more on this today, making sure that it makes sense, making sure that the adjustments there are what we want. I did some abstractions inside of that project, so I want to make sure that they're still clear for everyone. So I'm going to go through some of those details, but I'll just go ahead and share this PR here. If anyone wants to go take a look, feel free. Leave any comments or any questions that you have there. Oh, yeah, yeah, no, I actually can't explain that for you, Arindam, just while you're asking that question around the pieces classification specific enum. So that is just, so the classification specific enum right there is that those enumerations that we use to represent all of the classifications, right? So when you're like inside of the Pieces for Developers desktop app and you see the different classifications that are coming through there, those are all referencing each of those, each classification enum specific to the language. So pieces.classification specific enum dot bash, right, is going to reference bash as a classification, and you pass that classification specific enum in as that as the classification that you want, right? And so you also get that back. So it's really just stored as a string value on the other side there. So you can get that and use it inside of like any UI that you want to display. I hope that's a good enough explanation of that. I can kind of add some. Okay, cool, great. I can add some more around that too. But on that issue, if you do have some other holes that you're thinking or that you see in like the explanation or additional information that's useful, go ahead and throw that on that issue, and we'll make sure that we add that into the documentation. Cool. So yeah, let's just keep going. Oh, sorry, my window keeps hiding here. Okay, cool. So yeah, Mistral support in the SDKs, really exciting. You'll start to see that pop up in some other projects, and we'll likely get this added into the example project here soon. So moving past that, there's the JetBrains drag and drop project. So this is a new open source project that I'm just going to kind of lightly talk about. Kuba's going to dive more into it later today. He's going to be presenting about how he went about this and some of the very interesting parts of this tool set that he's built for Intellij plugins. So really exciting about that. So he's going to talk about that a little bit more, but this will be a project that you guys can help contribute to and work on throughout the rest of this year, and that we can all kind of help build for other developers inside of Intellij to help support them in their projects. This is really around the file tree. So you guys will see some cool stuff around how the file tree works in Intellij and how it's been upgraded by some of this functionality. So really cool. Yeah, definitely go through those docs, Arindam, though, for sure. Cool. And so moving forward, I know you guys have seen, but I just want to bring it back up so that everyone's aware and can follow these along to try and understand how to use the Copilot a little bit more. Is those 3 blogs that we just published. These are really around the questions that Sean, sorry, that Sean's been asking. And I want to make sure that we clarify those. So we'll get those blogs updated with any clarification questions that come out of that too. Really, really great examples to follow along with, though, to build a Copilot inside of your own project and really get familiar there. Moving forward, so some exciting news. We're going to be applying to be a mentor organization in the Google Summer of Code this year. So with that being said, it's going to be an opportunity for a lot of different contributors that are not necessarily inside of our org right now to come in and get involved, and also for us to help educate and teach others how to use AI and how to use the Pieces tool system to be a part of that program. So what they do is they'll connect us and other open source programs with you guys as contributors if you'd like to join, or even if some of you would like to join as other mentors in our organization. We're starting to kind of scout out what that looks like and figure out how we could best support this ecosystem, right? So we have a form here that we're gonna start circulating, and you'll see this form pop up again. So if you fill it out once, you don't need to fill it out again. But we want to start sharing or getting interest in kind of figuring out how people are feeling about the Google Summer of Code and what their experience is in open source, so we can best place different people in the right locations for what they want to do. So in order to do that, we just got this form. There's only a couple questions, and I think it asks for your email, just so we can stay in touch and start to get you guys on an email list. And we can be in communications and share any information that you guys will need as we start to get closer to the program. We won't really find out if we're accepted as a mentor org until I believe it's the 22nd of February. But it's a really cool program, and it's not just our org that you'll be potentially working with, right? Like, this will expose you guys to a lot of different technologies out there around like Deploy and some of the other open source programs that were on the Twitter space last week. I don't know, Mason, if you have that link, if anyone here that wasn't at that wanted to check that out, we'd love to share that too. It was really cool talk between different people, or between different maintainers and other open source leaders. So it's really cool. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on that front. Google Summer of Code coming soon. Keep your eyes out for any updates on Twitter, any messages that we send out. But definitely fill out that form if you're interested and you're here now, and we'd love to get you connected and start talking about the next steps for the Summer of Code with Google this year. So it'll be our first one, and we'd love to have you guys there. Cool. So just moving a little bit past that, I wanted to talk about the Desk Buddy project. So I'm really excited about this. This is a great project for everyone to kind of help and contribute to, but we've had to make some changes in the location that we're going to be doing this. But I'm really excited that James is actually going to be heading up this project and starting to kind of lead it on his GitHub repo. So right now, we're going to work on migrating this repo from its current location under our org to James's and getting everything set up. He's been working on this hard already. So we're getting that prepped, and he's going to just really be at the front of this project, and we're all going to be kind of collaborating with him and seeing how we can build this together, right? And just to give it a little bit more unique freedom in the way that he builds, and also being able to come alongside him, I think this will be a really cool project. So we're excited, really focusing around like activities and some other cool functionality that we think we can find, or we think that we can utilize through, counting things inside of your snippet list and figuring out some of your most popular, the top language that you use for this month, things like that, like helping you understand new resources to find. Lots of cool stuff. So, oh yeah, Mason, that's great. So yeah, we'll continue to expand that project and really get a clear scope of work, right? Because we want to make sure that's very clear for you guys. I know that it's been very back and forth between the name and other things changing around it. So we'll get that solidified and share out a README that'll have that to a T, and we can start to chip away at that with James. So that'll be really cool. Really excited about that. James, thanks so much for just working with us and continuing to push on that project. You've been doing a great job. So we'll keep that going. Oh, nice. Thanks, Mason. Yeah, check out that Twitter space just to hear from some other contributors and some other maintainers out in the community. It was a really, really great talk. Awesome. And speaking of awesome, one of the other things that we're doing, I don't know if anyone has heard of this before, but the awesome repo. We're going to be building our own awesome repo, which is essentially a large list of all the resources you would need to get involved in open source, to find out how to use pieces, to get support. Anything that you would need that's pieces related all lives here on this repo, and you can just go there and find anything that you would need, and boom, you're good. Get right connected into open source, leave. You can use it for whatever purposes you need, and it's a really good way to share out with others if you're trying to get them involved in one part of the community, or if you just want to give them a little taste of what Pieces is about. This will continue to live there, and it's a community project, so we'll all start to contribute to this. And it was done by one of our community members, Anushka, who is one of our DevRels, and she has just done a great job putting all this information together. So go check that out once it's published. There should be a PR showing up today into one of our, I believe it's Pieces Awesome. I have that link here, or I believe Mason, can you grab that link? It should just be. Oh, I think actually I have it. Sorry, guys. Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll get that link shared in the chat for you guys. But I just want to keep things moving. So really excited about that awesome repo, though. Thanks, Anushka, for working on that. I know she's not here right now, but let's move on. So just before we keep going forward, Google season of docs. Yeah, I wanted to see if there are any other questions right now. Just I know I kind of moved a little quick, so if there's any questions about the random different parts of the org events that have been going on, feel free to ask those now. I wanted to, Fatima, what is the Google season of docs? That sounds really awesome. What does anyone have any links or anything on this? Fatima, I'm really curious if you have any more information too. Whoa. Wow, this is really awesome. GSOC for docs. We love docs. I'm a huge docs person. This is really cool. Fatima, I'd love to yeah, this is great. I'd love to talk more about this. For sure, for sure, for sure. Let's get this shared in. I'm gonna share this in our open source chat right now. Oh, sorry, there's a little bit of a conversation going on there. Okay, no worries. We will keep this on the docket. And Fatima, let's definitely talk more about this. This seems like a really great opportunity. Also open for non-students. Okay, awesome. Don't worry about the typos. That's what docs are for, so that we can practice typing all the time. But cool. We'll start exploring this. I'm gonna add this to my notes, and yeah, let's just stay in touch in the open source chat and talk more about this. Maybe we can start a thread around what's going on with this program. But it's nice because it looks like we can wait until 22nd of this month to submit an application, which is around the time we'll hear back from GSOC if we'll be a part of Google Summer of Code. So that'll be really awesome. Cool. All right, let's if there are any other questions right now, I know I was just asking about that, but I just want to double check. Apart from that, Kuba, I believe you're in the audience. I just wanted to see if you are ready to start kind of kicking off your demo and start talking about the drag and drop plugin that you built. Awesome. Do we want to get him up on the stage here, Mason?
Yeah, he should be able to join the stage. There he is. I'm gonna pop down just so it's a little bit less crowded.
Yeah, I'm gonna do the same.
Okay.
I'm gonna respond in chat. So Kuba, I'll hand it over to you. This is Kuba,
Hi,
Intellij
everyone.
plugin extraordinaire at Pieces, and yeah, take it away.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction. Let me start with sharing my. Oh gosh, can I share my screen? Because I didn't check that in advance. I probably should be able to. Anyways, yeah, I should be able to share my screen. So,
Yeah, you should be able to. You want to
yeah,
see if you can get
I
it up?
just
If not, you can just
macOS
rejoin.
didn't want me to, do that without prior permissions.
Mhm.
So let's see if I can do that. Um, should be good. Can you see
Nice.
what's happening on my screen?
Yes, absolutely.
Cool, great. So, hello again. I'm Kuba, and I'm responsible for building our plugin for Intellij. And as you probably have been hinted by the message on our open source channel, and as Jordan said, we're going to talk about drag and dropping things in Intellij. The reason we are focusing on that today is because this was one of our biggest friction points for all our users in IntelliJ, I believe, because if you want to work with some materials, right? We are pretty much used and accustomed to being able to just drag and drop different things around all the place in IntelliJ, just like I can, select a portion of code and just drag and drop it anywhere else. And so I can drop files between folders, tabs between, just to order them. And just like that, we realized that this is a big missing feature. Because if you want to use your pieces and you want to be able to interact with your snippets frictionless, it would be great if you could just drag and drop things onto pieces if you want to save a new snippet, or if you could just drag a snippet into your code just so you don't have to click around and just have just so you don't have to select, right click, save to pieces, or right click here and insert it at caret. So there's just this one less step to perform, so you can get more performant and your workflow, you just don't have to focus on how to use your snippet and how to add one. You just do it without thinking, because that's the most natural thing, the most natural way of doing things as a human. You just grab it and drag it. And so this is basically what we are focusing on with this project. And this is super streamlined. As you can see, there's nothing much. There's nothing else happening in this right click. This isn't a full pieces plugin, because we want to declutter this thing and just make it as clear as possible for anyone reading to understand what's happening in this particular feature. And so it may seem simple on the surface if I just drag a thing and it just gets moved to my editor, and vice versa. If I just want to get a piece of text and I just want it to be added to my snippets, I just do it and it is there, right? And I can just see it being here. And so this is a pretty simple action, and it doesn't seem like much, but there's a lot to unfold just to make this happen. And so where we can begin is, of course, we need to present our snippets, present our data in some human readable form, which is this tree structure we have here that happens to group all the snippets by the extension of the language that a snippet is in. And so basically, in order to do that, there's a whole article, of course, it will be linked here in the chat, but in order to do that, what we have to do is to create a simple tool window. That is a thing that is deeply embedded into IntelliJ platform. And so what we want to do is we want to go to our plugin XML file, which is the default plugin description file when you start developing your own plugin. And of course, feel free to, tell me if I go too much into detail and speak on too basic of a level. But I assume not everyone knows, I also started somewhere. So basically what we need to do is to declare a tool window in our extension, in our plugin descriptor file. It has an ID, and that also is a thing that is included from the get-go when you clone the plugin template from Intellij open source repository. So that's a nice thing. You don't have to type it yourself. You have it pretty much ready to go as soon as you clone the repo. And so it also has the tool window factory class already baked in. And what that class is responsible for is just if you create a new window, if you open a new project in your IDE, if your user does that, the IDE needs to know how to create contents for that tool window per project, because the content may be different for each project, especially that it may be the case for if you have your files to be displayed, your project files in that window. So what we do is we declare this simple factory that has one basic thing to do, which is to create, the main thing is to create the content for our tool window, which is our custom component, and we'll get to that in a second, basically. And so it creates our custom component that then is used as a content for that window. And I'll try to keep it short. So this gets registered, it gets configured, and then the IDE is notified, okay, this is our content, this is what you can display. And so we can pretty much jump into the tool window itself, which is an extension of simple tool window panel. And what that means is this is a class that Intellij has provided to us, where we can simplify our setup to tell the IDE that, hey, we want this to be in a certain layout, and there's this basic panel that we want to be displayed as a main thing in that layout. And so what happens here, this is quite a long file. As you can see, it has over 150 lines, which is, by my standards at least, very long file. And that's because a lot of things are happening in here. What we do is we create, we create a tree that is one of the basic structures in Intellij that is pre-configured to be nicely rendered in the IDE and in all of the Java Swing environments, because Intellij is basically written on Java Swing for UI. And what we do here is we create a tree, we create a basic empty model with a root node. And we do configure it with different things, but we'll get on, we'll tackle them one by one. But what matters is we make that model happen. We insert it into the tree structure that then gets informed on how to render those things based on the data model and data layer of things. And so what is important in here is that tree gets to know different styles and formats of data we want to input there. So what the tree in IntelliJ works on 3 nodes, of course, because trees have nodes. But sorry, I'm just looking for the right line. The basic interface for that is a default mutable tree node, which means that there are certain, of course, data structures going on in there. But the reason I'm mentioning that is because we are using default mutable tree nodes as a way of representing the language group, but we also base another data type off of the default tree node, which is our snippet tree node, which can be seen here. And the reason it's important is because, for one, we have an easier access to what is really important to us when we want to render things or we want to interact with the underlying data once we get to actually handle the drag and drop action. And two, Kotlin has a pretty simple way of checking if an object is an instance of a class, which will be very handy later in our logic or responding to the question if we can manage and handle certain type of data. And so right now we have this tree configured, but this part I've talked so far about is responsible for just displaying that data, right? And so not much happens there because all we do is we get some basic tree structure, but that structure is the core of understanding by the IDE on what to display and in what manner. The structure is built based on, of course, our snippets in this repo. However, I think we may want to focus on the drag and drop itself. And the drag and drop itself is relying on what is called a transfer handler. In our case, there's a simple class called tree transfer handler, but this is our own class. We can name it however we like. And so the transfer handler is responsible for actually telling the IDE and informing all the components in IntelliJ platform about things that are moving, about all the moving parts, be it via clipboard, be it via drag and drop, be it, anything that moves in IntelliJ is probably handled by the transfer handler. And this is a crucial part because while the rendering thing is all based on the data, right? The tree structure also has a listener for our clicks and our drag actions, drag events, all those things. And so why this is important is we can just install our handler, right? And this handler, it has a couple basic functionalities and responsibilities. It needs to tell in advance to the IDE if the piece of data that's hovering on our particular component is a piece of data we can handle, because IntelliJ wants to tell the user in advance using a simple icon and a cursor version if that data can be handled. And I can show it by just trying to drag a file here, right? So if I want to, of course, IntelliJ plays games with me today. So sorry about that. But if I try to, let's say, I don't know if I can grab a notification. No, not really. Okay, let's forget that. Anyways, if I wanted to drag something I cannot drag into this place, maybe I can try with some kind of a file. No, it's not doing anything. Okay. It basically shows a different kind of cursor, just as if I wanted to, this kind of cursor, right? So I cannot really drop the text right onto the scroll bar because this is what I'm hovering on. But I can drop it onto my text category and it's being indicated by the new cursor. And while it's glitchy and it's partially IntelliJ's fault, to be honest, it is telling your users in advance, hey, you can drop it here or you cannot drop it here. And this is why it needs to tell in advance if that can happen or not. And that is also logic that is being used in other things, like if you drop something on our component, we can just invoke that function, which is the default modus operandi for all transfer handlers, is that if you try to drop something on your component, it first checks if it can import that thing, and if not, then it just doesn't. And so we need to check if the data flavor, because, I didn't mention data flavors before, but the data kind is described in the transfer support object. And so if we want to be able to answer that question, if we can handle that data, we can check if it supports a certain data flavor. And data flavor is a widely used in Java and Kotlin, basically in JVM, as a way to unify descriptors for what certain data provides. What is, oh, yeah, I see I froze. Yeah, give me. But can you hear me though? Okay, seems to work now, but in a weird way.
We can hear you just fine. And I was going to say too, Kuba, for people that have just joined or kind of with where you're at currently, because you're just getting to around data flavors, kind of just like do you have like a overview of kind of like the different, I don't know, just like where you've gotten so far, right? Because it is very in depth inside of IntelliJ. So like kind of for a second, taking our head up and seeing like so far we've gotten through, we're already at data flavors, right? So we've gotten through some of the natural IntelliJ functionality around drag and drop, and then some of the differences between that drag and drop and kind of what you envisioned in this plugin and created, correct?
I'm so sorry, I got distracted. Can you please ask me again?
Yeah, no, it's totally fine. I was just seeing if you could give like kind of an overview of what you've covered so far, right, for people that have just joined, and kind
Oh, yeah.
since it gets very in depth into IntelliJ, that way just to follow through as the data flavor sections comes, because data flavors again also are as kind of an abstract concept for some people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is all a complex solution because it's, you know, our first project from IntelliJ world. So I guess, yeah, a quick summary would be nice here. I agree. Thank you. So far, we have seen that in order to just be able to display some kind of your data in IntelliJ, you have to create a window using an appropriate factory that is delivered by IntelliJ and by JetBrains in the plugin templates repo. And so once we create that factory, like once we use that factory, it tells and installs content and tells IntelliJ to show a certain component that we decide what that component is. And our component is, well, it's a complex abstraction, but deep down is just a J component any J component will be fine, basically. But we are using a nice utilitarian component abstraction and extension from IntelliJ that lets us simply and quickly configure it to look properly in the IntelliJ itself, so we don't have to manually render everything ourselves. And that component has one crucial data structure that is data-driven, and also has capabilities to tell IntelliJ how to render each node of the tree for the data we use. And so, and that rendering process is data-driven. And that structure, well, this is a multifunctional structure that not only renders and preserves data, but also can have a transfer handler installed. And now we're talking about the transfer handler, which is a thing that basically runs the whole operation of copying, pasting, transferring, moving, dragging, and dropping things all around IntelliJ, and not only actually, because you can copy something from IntelliJ and paste it into, let's say, Notion or just browser or Discord, and that also is being handled by a transfer handler, unless you do it manually in code with Clipboard Manager, but that's a whole different story. Anyway, so right now,
interesting. Sorry, I just had a question. So basically, anything that moves between IntelliJ to somewhere or from somewhere into IntelliJ is interacting with that transfer handler on some level, correct?
And with some form of transfer handler, we are defining our custom transfer handler for our data and our component, and overall our plugin. But every single thing in IntelliJ, if you can move it, if you can copy it, or paste something somewhere, this is being handled by the transfer handler.
Okay. Awesome. Cool. Thanks, Kuba. I was just curious. I also just
Sure.
want to let you know, just to keep on like kind of our timing with some things, probably around like
Oh, yeah, of
5
course.
more minutes, and then we should be good, so we can get through some of the contributor stuff. I just wanted to let you know that.
Yeah,
But you're
absolutely.
doing great.
Yeah, well, I had to go through the wall of things before we get to the real deal in this whole thing. And I'm sorry for that, but that's just the way this project is configured. And there's a lot of overhead to start with IntelliJ itself, but the thing we are focusing on right now is fairly simple, so I'll keep it short. And so we are talking about data flavors, which is a way of standardizing across all the JVM what kind of data is being transferred and how to obtain that data across all the system you're using. So data flavor or string flavor, for example, is just a simple way for Java to tell, hey, I am copying string and to the clipboard, or just I'm moving a string. And so anywhere I drop it, be it on Discord or my browser or whatever, the JVM communicates with the operating system of your computer, be it Linux, Mac OS. It's universal, basically, and tells it, hey, this is string you're looking for and you're dealing with. And so if the user drops something in, I don't know, Facebook Messenger text box, you should deal with it as if it was a plain text. And that's what data flavor basically is. And the cool thing is, we can define our own data flavors. They may not be universally supported, but they can be supported where it counts. And that's the secret sauce for handling your own kind of data in your own plugin. And to define such a data flavor, it's actually pretty simple, because you just store some static constant somewhere in your plugin that's convenient to you and hopefully readable to others, that says, hey, we have a data flavor that is based on this class on this Java class. And we can even describe it. So if you use toString, it will tell you what it is, but you don't have to. We just did it to make it easier to understand what it is. And that's the core concept for handling your own data in this transfer handler. And so what this enables us to do is this lets us check in the can import function if this data flavor is supported by the transfer we are handling right now. And this is super important because if you want to import something to your component or just drag it or move it or whatever, if you're dealing with a string, we know that this is something that is probably coming from an editor or from some, even from outside IntelliJ, but this is a text. And if it's text, we can try to figure out if this is code, if this is compatible, if it meets other criteria we have set for text. And if it's an asset, meaning our pieces snippet, this means we know for a fact that we can do other things than just importing it and saving it to pieces, like reclassifying, which is something we can do pretty easily with this drag and drop action. For example, if we saved something to pieces and I don't know, maybe it decided it was a markdown, but it was actually a plain text. And I do have plain text snippets, so I can just drag and drop it to my text category and it will get reclassified, just like that. And so the can import is just a discriminator function that will tell you, hey, we do or do not support this. And that's the core idea for it. Of course, if you want to investigate how to be more precise or how to invoke more specific functions and other functionalities at all, you're always welcome to read through the repo and ask me questions and ask us about what's happening in here. But the can import is just this. It tells the IDE if our component where we installed this transfer handler is able to handle this kind of data. And if we can import that data, then import data is being invoked, where we, of course, check just for good measure if we can do that. But if we can, then, well, there's a lot of things that can happen, right? If we are dealing with an asset, and we know that this is our kind of data because we've asked if this is a data flavor that is supported using that transfer, then we can do all sorts of things. In our example, we are just trying to get information from the tree. What is the extension group of snippets where this asset was dropped? And if we and if we are able to establish that, hey, this is actually dropped on some other extension that it was primarily in, we can extract that information and send a request to Pieces OS that tells, hey, this snippet was improperly classified. It's actually not markdown, it's plain text. Please reclassify it. And so if you are doing it, you can invoke your own logic with the server or with other parts of your plugin. And if we decide, and if we know that this is not an existing asset, it's not an existing snippet, it means it's a string because we ruled out all the other possibilities in the good measure can import check. And so if we are dealing with a string, we know that we can import it. So we do get additional metadata for saving things. We get the editor info, which we have passed to the constructor of this class in form of an editor manager. Sorry. And we get info from that editor manager on what kind of file is being opened right now. So we can easily detect the context for the snippet. And I won't bore you with the details right now, but the core idea is once you get to know that, hey, this is kind of data I want to handle, I want to support, you can just extract that data and do whatever you want with it. And after you're done, you can just try to invoke a refresh on your, on your snippet tree, just so the user knows, hey, a change has been made. You have added something, you have changed something, you have moved something. And so this is for the
Kuba.
import. Yep.
Sorry, I just wanted to interrupt you really quick. Sean, sorry, I keep saying Shun because we worked with somebody named Shun. Anyways, Sean has a question. He was asking, so when you're defining your own custom data flavor, does that flavor become a category in the scope of the original discriminator function? He just is asking that question to see if he's understanding it correctly.
Does that flavor become a category in the scope of the original discrimination? Well, it depends on how you implement the discriminator function, but that's the idea, right? So you define your own data flavor, and then in your discriminator function, you check if this is one of the flavors you support. This is one of the flavors you support, right? But in discriminator function, you can easily check if the data you're dealing with is your data, your own. So yeah, I guess you understood it correctly. And so,
sorry, just before you get back into it, Kuba, I just wanted to. We're just getting a little bit closer. We're going to go a little over today, so if people want to stay and continue following along with Kuba, I think we're getting closer to the end around talking about some of these imports and exports, right, Kuba?
yeah, absolutely.
So I just kind of want to let people know we are going to go a little over today. So just if everyone wants to stay and continue to hang out, we'll go through some of the contributor stuff and all the current open issues and things that are going around. So feel free to stay after as well too if you would like. But yeah, Kuba, keep going.
Yeah, and I'm sorry it's taking so long, but next projects are going to be much shorter because some of you will be already introduced to the whole core project those will be based on. So sorry in advance, and thank you for your patience. So now the last thing we need to do, because we now know we can import, we can handle things being dropped on our component, be it they are moved or imported from outside of our component. We know how to handle them, we know how to deal with them. And so the last thing we want this transfer handler is responsible for is actually being able to tell if we can export things. And so this is what the create transferable method is for. What it does is it can either return null, which means basically that, hey, you're dragging something that is not exactly meant for being exported, or just a new transferable, which in our case is the snippets node transferable, which I have shown a minute ago or two. Transferable is a simple class that tells you, hey, I store this kind of data. I allow this set of data flavors to be used and to be transferred within my object. And if you ask me for a certain for data of certain flavor, I'm going to be able to support you and give you this data you want. And so this is basically a glorified getter wrapper with a distinction for what is supported and what is not. Going back, the create transferable, as you may see, is not too complicated because it has 7 logic lines. And that's because it is pretty simple. What we do here is we get our component, our drag even source component passed as an argument to this method. And we can, this component is our tree. And our tree has lots of functions, as I said. It is data-driven. It can render. It can handle lots of events. And so it can also handle selection. And we can ask our tree what is currently being selected. And based on that, we can check if this is our snippet tree node or if it's not. If it's and since we only care about exporting snippets themselves, we only will allow our snippet tree nodes that are data representation of actual snippets to be converted into transferables that can then be dropped anywhere in your OS. And so this has a simple discrimination logic, which is basically checking if what I'm dragging now is my snippet tree node. And if it is, I am trying to get ID from that node because, as you may remember, we have defined a simple getter for ID of the snippet we provide to that node because it stores a reference to it. We can then get our data from wherever we store it, like in its full glory. In this case, is just a snippet store service in our plugin, and we create a transferable with it, and we just return it, and that's the whole thing, the whole magic behind drag and dropping your own data in IntelliJ. And like I said, I again apologize for stretching this over time, but this was a huge introduction to the whole series of open source projects, and there are more, hopefully shorter and simpler projects coming up in the foreseeable future. So all I can say is thank you for your attention and for listening to me rambling about IntelliJ and its nuances. And yeah, stay tuned for new projects.
Yeah, awesome, Kuba. Thank you so much for going through all that. I know it gets very in the weeds when you start talking about IntelliJ because IntelliJ is IntelliJ. And it is a very interesting tool, but a very powerful IDE that we are all huge fans of. Not all of us. I know some of you are VS Code users out there, but I personally am a huge IntelliJ guy. So
yeah, I can paraphrase, JetBrains, everything. Glass is glass and glass breaks. And so IntelliJ is IntelliJ, and IntelliJ is tricky.
It is. It certainly is. So thank you so much, though. And I think this is really cool to have this kind of introduction to it, like you're saying, and is a cool opportunity for how this is going to look in the Google Summer of Code, right? And what some of these opportunities are going to be to add additional functionality to this drag and drop plugin, or to use this drag and drop plugin to build something else, right? So being familiar with some of the ins and outs of these transfer handlers and these different data flavors is super important when it comes to actually working inside of that repo. So thanks again, man. Really, really huge. If anyone has any questions for Kuba, like he said, feel free to reach out to him on the README, or on the repo itself. Feel free to send any messages in the chat right now as we're going through some of the contributor updates. And yeah, just thanks again, Kuba. Awesome. Great stuff. Yeah, so let's share that repo in here really quick. Would love to get that shared. I'm pretty sure it went out earlier, but just want to make sure that we get that available. If somebody could grab that, Kuba, can you send over the IntelliJ repo into the chat? That'd be awesome. But yeah, so really, really awesome job. We're gonna move on to talking about our contributions, our contributors, you guys out here making it happen, keeping the world moving, loving it. You guys have been all over the place. Arindam, you've been killing it. I really appreciate you. Got some enhancements on the clearing chat inputs when you're sending messages in the Copilot. So be sure to pull down any updates from main. We're going to make sure that all these PRs are in and that it's tested and functioning properly. Like I said earlier, there were some issues kind of going on between the NPM versions and some NPM cache stuff not getting deleted on some machines. So just going to double check those things today, make sure everyone's up and running in the chat. I know we had a couple people reach out, so make sure that's good to go. Go check out those polls. I'm going to share one of them here so you guys can go take a look. If anyone wants to leave a review, feel free. Really trying to get more reviews done on code as it goes in, right? So as you guys have time or see PRs going up, even if you aren't marked as a reviewer, it's a good muscle to build to start reviewing PRs as we continue to have more PRs opening and going on, as these endpoint issues come in today, as these new test issues come in from Chevet. Oh, that rhymed. But as those new test issues come in, we're gonna start getting more kind of different sectors of things going on, between testing and maintaining to learning how to actually build on new endpoints, and then taking those and deploying them into each of you guys' projects and the environments that you're in, hopefully expanding more of this node environment, maybe with Sean as well too. Awesome. Thanks everyone for taking a look at some of those things too. We're going to move on to, those tests. So I just mentioned those from Chevet. Those are coming. This is going to be around more asset creation and deletion. Some of those earlier endpoints that we added to the project, we're going to be sure to kind of add tests for those so that as we continue to merge more things, make sure the project integrity stays great. Those new endpoints are coming. I just added one of them about learning about asset reclassify. So feel free to go check that out. New one up for grabs. I also saw that I think 2 other people have reached out. I think it was Arindam that reached out about one. Yeah, I'm going to be following up on some more issues right after the call. And Sean, for the README on the example project, I'm going to take some of the stuff that we were talking about, add it in there too, even before our call. So feel free to check that stuff out later today as well. That would be awesome. And yeah, if there is really anything else we can talk about now, does anyone have any last questions or anything really cool that they did this week that they just want to share? Would love to just kind of hear from some of you guys. But really, really glad everyone was able to come today. Just going to continue working on this documentation and just spending some time improving things. I know that Oh, thanks, Agrim. Thank you for reminding me. Desk Buddy. Sorry. So we talked about this just a little bit at the early of the call, and I'm just going to revisit it right now. So thank you again. But Desk Buddy, right? I know everyone probably saw the name change. It's coming back. We're going back to Desk Buddy. I know you guys were kind of excited about that, so it's coming back. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this project, and James is really going to head this up, and he's going to open up a repo underneath his org, right, or under his user profile, and we're going to maintain and manage it from there for right now, just to not create confusion around what the project itself is. And we really want to have him be the owner of this, as it is his idea that he's spent time expanding and expounding upon. So we're going to still be all working together, and we'll add these links, share them in the chats per normal, but we're just going to let James host it himself on his repo. So he's going to work on that, and he's already started migrating the issues over. So any issues that you have commented on or would like to comment on, I would recommend kind of going through some things today and just kind of keeping an eye out. We'll share those links in the Discord as soon as we have them. And then I think, James is typing right now. James, if you want to come up on the stage and talk at all about this, feel free to request to join the stage. But yeah, just more updates coming soon, and we'll have information out for you. Absolutely. Awesome. Well, this seems like a good place to end it. If there are any final questions, thanks, Agrim, for bringing up Desk Buddy. Chrissy, it's great to have you here. Thanks for reaching out to the Content Partner Program. We'll see when that comes back. I know I saw the form come in, so that's awesome. Really excited that you were able to reach out and get that done. Arindam, we'll talk soon. Sean, we'll link up on setting some time. And everyone else, have a great Saturday. Thanks for coming to the 4th open source meet. Really been great having you guys be consistent here and coming in and talking about the things that you guys are building and sharing them with us. It really means a lot. So we're excited to have you here, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Or we'll see you on GitHub in between now and then. But everybody have a great day.